Welcome to Episode 11, Documentation Quality, Narratives that Survive Scrutiny. In every security program, documentation determines not only how well the system is understood, but also whether it is accepted by reviewers and authorizing officials. A clear narrative can make the difference between a smooth approval and weeks of clarification cycles. The documents, system security plans, assessment reports, action plans, are not written for decoration. They tell the story of intent, action, and proof. Reviewers do not expect poetry. They expect precision that feels human. When documentation reads like a living explanation rather than a copied policy, it conveys mastery. The aim is simple: create narratives that any independent reader can follow and that still make sense years later, long after the authors have moved on. Building on that idea, the first rule of documentation quality is to favor plain language over policy boilerplate. Boilerplate may sound authoritative, but it often hides meaning behind empty formality. Replace "the organization shall endeavor to maintain appropriate safeguards" with "the system enforces multi-factor authentication for all administrative users." Plain language does not weaken authority, it clarifies it. Each sentence should show what is done, by whom, and how often. Imagine explaining the control to a colleague new to the team. If the phrasing would confuse them, it will confuse reviewers too. Simplicity earns credibility. Complexity only delays understanding. From there, every narrative must define scope, actors, and systems explicitly. Scope tells readers what is covered. Actors describe who performs each task, and systems identify where it happens. Leaving any of those vague invites guesswork. For example, saying access reviews are conducted quarterly without naming the responsible role or system leaves auditors wondering whether the claim applies across all applications or just one. A good document reads like a map: clear edges, clear landmarks, and no ambiguous terrain. Readers should know what falls inside and outside in a single pass. Ambiguity, even when accidental, erodes trust faster than any missing paragraph. Next, state intent, implementation, and frequency for every control or process described. Intent explains the purpose, why the control exists. Implementation details how it is performed, and frequency shows when it happens. Together, they create a complete picture. For instance, the organization verifies backups daily to ensure availability of data for recovery within 1 hour. That sentence covers all three elements in one line. Intent answers why, implementation answers how, and frequency answers when. This structure makes it easy for reviewers to match claims with requirements and for teams to verify that the work aligns with stated goals. As narratives take shape, remember to name owners and accountable roles for each described action. Ownership turns vague process into assigned responsibility. Readers should never wonder who ensures that a control keeps working. If multiple teams share responsibility, list them all and specify their boundaries. One may operate the tool, another may review results. Accountability also extends to oversight. State who verifies that owners perform as intended. A table or inline note linking each control to its owner keeps relationships visible. When reviewers see clear accountability, they see maturity. When ownership is missing, they see risk. From there, align terminology across all artifacts so words carry the same meaning everywhere. If incident means a confirmed breach in one document but any alert in another, confusion follows. Create a glossary or adopt existing definitions from the framework itself. Consistent terms help both internal teams and external assessors interpret evidence without translation. Even capitalization matters. Decide whether to write System Security Plan or System Security Plan and stick with it. Terminology alignment is not pedantry. It is risk reduction. It prevents misunderstanding of scope, timing, and severity, which are the anchors of every credible review. Cross-referencing exact evidence locations reinforces that credibility. When you claim a control is implemented, point directly to where proof resides: file paths, ticket numbers, or system exports. Avoid phrases like "available upon request." Instead, state, "See evidence package EVD-03, folder access reviews, files January through March." Cross-references create a bridge between words and proof, making the documentation verifiable rather than aspirational. They also save time for both assessors and system owners by preventing scavenger hunts during audits. Evidence exists to support the story. Cross-references make sure the story can always find its foundation. Alongside evidence, declare all parameters, exceptions, and waivers clearly and in one place. Parameters define chosen values, such as review intervals or retention periods. Exceptions identify approved deviations awaiting remediation, and waivers record formal risk acceptance where compliance is not feasible. Listing them transparently shows that leadership knows where flexibility exists and where it does not. Hiding or scattering them implies disorganization, even if intentions are good. A single table summarizing each parameter, exception, and waiver with approval dates and owners transforms complexity into transparency. It tells reviewers, we understand our variations and we manage them. Documentation also needs to describe boundaries, inheritance, and residual risk in language that non-specialists can understand. Boundaries mark where the system's responsibility ends. Inheritance shows what is borrowed from providers or shared services. And residual risk acknowledges what remains despite controls. A reviewer who can see all three on one page can judge proportionality and completeness. For example, if physical access is inherited from a data center provider, say so and cite their attestation report. Follow by explaining the residual risk accepted by leadership if gaps remain. Honesty here strengthens the entire narrative. It shows confidence rather than weakness. To keep the prose readable, write in active voice and present tense wherever possible. The system logs and reviews administrative actions daily, is clearer than administrative actions are logged and reviewed daily by the system. Active voice shortens sentences and highlights accountability. Present tense signals that the behavior is routine, not occasional. Even when describing historical facts, keep supporting clauses simple. This approach makes documents easier to scan aloud or translate into policy language later. A reviewer should never need to reread a sentence twice to find who is acting or when the action occurs. Avoid contradictions and hedge words that soften meaning. Phrases like as appropriate, as needed, or generally sound safe but signal uncertainty. Replace them with quantifiable statements, weekly, after each change, or for all production systems. Consistency matters even more than perfection, because inconsistent statements can undermine hundreds of hours of good work. Run a contradiction check by searching for opposing statements about frequency, ownership, or scope. The best narrative reads like one mind wrote it, even when many hands contributed. Reviewers reward clarity with trust, and trust accelerates acceptance. Editorial checks, approvals, and sign-offs form the next layer of assurance. Before publishing, have peers or compliance reviewers verify grammar, alignment, and completeness. Approvals from system owners and authorizing officials confirm the document is not just accurate, but accepted. Sign-off logs create a chain of accountability for every version. They also protect the organization from disputes later by showing that leadership had full visibility. Treat editing as quality control, not mere formatting. A strong editorial process keeps style uniform and ensures that every claim reflects verified reality. Versioning, timestamps, and lineage notes preserve the integrity of documentation over time. Each revision should include the date, reason for change, author, and approver. For example, updated Control CM-6 to reflect new patch management policy approved by CISO March 2025. This traceability proves the narrative is living, not frozen. It also gives assessors context for why words differ from previous cycles. A well-maintained lineage record transforms documentation into an operational artifact that mirrors the organization's actual evolution. In the end, the goal is simple but demanding. Create narratives reviewers can trust. Every sentence should reflect deliberate thought, current truth, and traceable proof. When documentation tells a coherent story, from purpose to evidence, it builds confidence faster than any presentation or meeting could. Reviewers will see not just compliance, but competence. Documentation that survives scrutiny does more than pass audits. It becomes a blueprint others can reuse. In a field built on accountability, that is the highest compliment a writer can earn. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.